Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome into Two Guys, One Pod Fantasy Football Podcast. I am the hostess with the mostest, a.k.a. your favorite podcaster, a.k.a. Chev Sanders, a.k.a. Chev90. And I'm here joined by my illustrious co-host, Addi, Captain Underpants, Narter, Narddog, the Slee. He puts the sleaze in Sleazak. Addi, how we doing today, brother?
I'm good. I haven't heard you give the second last name some shade. That's nice. I love going by the sleaze bag too. So go with whatever you're feeling. I'm Chev's favorite podcaster, so I'm hyped to be out here making some takes. Duck League champ in the chat.
Yeah, man. And what we're gonna do today, as we kind of transition into, we've been talking Dynasty quite a bit. We're going to talk today about veteran players that are geared up to help your team win now. So some guys that you can go in and acquire for much cheaper than what they'll actually represent in your league as a whole. Like, you're not going to be able to get that production from a young player that you're high on, most likely, because these guys are probably going to produce at a top 5 tight end, top 12, top 10 to 12 quarterback, top 5 to 10 wide receiver. And, we're going to throw some names at you that we think are going to produce that could absolutely help you win now. And that's going to bridge the gap between where we've been at in Dynasty season and kicking off into best ball and redraft season, which is right around the corner for us. So before we do that, though, let's talk through some NFL news and notes. Addi, what do you got for us?
Hey, as Captain Underpants, I love watching guys in their underpants hit that training camp vibe. We're getting some nice Twitter videos of everybody practicing. And we got those. We got to see Ricky Pearsall, as always, nurse a soft tissue injury. He's getting a hammy injury. He's getting himself ready. I got to say, this one actually does move the needle for me. I'm normally not a big training camp matters sort of person for soft tissue, but for a guy that clearly took a little bit to develop, I would have loved to see Pearsall in training camp all offseason as the wide receiver one there so that he could kind of establish himself. Does this move the needle for you?
I was already kind of out. So, ADP wise, he's going in the 8th round. Him and Ayuk are going right around each other. And I know, everybody's going to get all bricked up about, the reception perception and what Matt Harmon had to say, where, he was saying that maybe in Shanahan's system, we get Ricky Pearsall as kind of the Cooper Kupp. Let's just pump the brakes here. Okay. He's really good against man coverage. Let's just be realistic, though. You got Juwan Jennings, proven veteran. They call him third and Juwan for a reason. They call, Adam, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch paid Brandon Ayuk $30 million, whether you like it or not. And so he's not going anywhere for a while. So I just have a hard time with the fact that they play 12 personnel at one of the highest rates in the league. So that means that your $30 million receiver is going to be out there. And then who else are you going to put out there if they're going 12 personnel quite a bit? Now, there are some rumblings that potentially they could move to more of an 11 personnel look and use more condensed splits, kind of like the Rams have done in, recent years. I mean, they run 11 personnel. That's one back, one tight end, as much as anybody in the league. 12 personnel, for those of you who aren't aware, is one back, two tight ends. I just have a hard time with his price point. I mean, I saw, shout out to, the Dynasty Gambit. I was talking to Ben the other day. He, one of the hosts from over there, he said he traded 2 seconds for Ricky Pearsall, and I am firmly on the 2 second side. So, it does kind of move the needle for me. You never want to see soft tissue injuries during OTAs, but we've got a little bit of time to get right. But I was just kind of out on Ricky Pearsall's price point. Alliteration aside, I was just kind of out on that as a whole.
Yeah. And to be honest, I moved him right before the soft tissue injury, and I could not be happier, because if that moves the needle for me, then my trade feels even better. I got a second and a couple win now guys, some of which we're going to be talking about today. One reason they might not be in 11 personnel very often is because they just traded for Bryce Huff, giving them another proven pass rusher on that team, which I think should move them to still doing that 12 personnel thing that Shanahan's been so good at for this long. And I think with a good defense, you're more inclined to run 12 personnel. So I think Bryce Huff is a nice addition to that team. We're probably going to see them do a lot of the same, and their win total, Vegas agrees. We're sitting at around 10.5 for the Niners. I think that's probably what we're going to end up getting there.
Well, I mean, the beautiful part about San Francisco's situation and them trading for Bryce Huff is just a further theme that they've been very adamant about throughout the process of this, throughout the entire offseason. With the way that they spent their draft picks, they went and got big, fast, mean up front. They got CJ West. They took the big freak from Mykal Walker, I believe that's his name, from Georgia at the 11th overall pick. And they just went trenches. And they're trying to surround, Nick Bosa with some guys that are going to absolutely be nails against the run on first and second down, and let him go hunt for another Defensive Player of the Year award. They do get Robert Saleh back. So I like that 10.5 win total, man. I feel like last year was kind of fool's gold, because you always want to try to fade the team that lost in the Super Bowl the year before. That's just kind of a rule of thumb. Hey, let's take the unders on their wins. Let's take the unders. It's very rare that they bounce back from basically playing from May or June OTAs through early February, and then that turnaround OTA starting again in April or May. That just takes a toll on a team. So I love that you brought up the win total. What else we got news-wise, bud?
We got one of my favorite players in the game, actually, and I think one of yours too. Jonnu Smith is apparently getting shopped. I kind of find this one to be shocking because of how successful he was in Mike McDaniel's system, and we saw the fact that they moved to more of a 12 personnel package. They moved out of shotgun a little bit. And to go along with that, is there a better tight end in the game aside from maybe Mike Gesicki, who they already got rid of and shopped, that could fit in that system? I thought that when I saw the rumors of a Jonnu Smith trade, one, I was like, as a Bears fan, why did we draft Loveland? Come on, we could have traded for Jonnu. But two, I was looking at that and I'm like, oh my goodness, if Jonnu does end up on one of those rosters where he can be the tight end one, fully established in that offense, I would love to draft him at whatever price point that's going to end up at. Do you got any spots that you're wish casting him into?
Man, I've been thinking about it. I mean, so the team that floated to the top immediately in the actual trade rumors was the Steelers, and I would hate that more than anything.
I'd hate that so much.
Yeah, I mean, that's the opposite of what I would want to happen. I mean, I could honestly, if we're talking landing spot and opportunity, let's just throw it out there. I don't love it because they're in my division, but the Texans would be a perfect fit. The Texans and the Jaguars both would be excellent fits. As much as we're all pretty keyed up about Brenton Strange in Jacksonville, there's just there's no comparison of the two as players. and then the Texans needing someone to command targets, giving those 80 Dalton Schultz targets to a guy like Jonnu Smith would probably return you a higher EPA on your plays than than Dalton Schultz. So those are two locations just off the top of my head that I would really like. I do love the Chicago call because, while he's not as, he could play out wide. I mean, him and Sam Laporta were the only two guys to line up outside, like at wide receiver, more than 20% of their snaps. So he has formation versatility. He can line up in line. I hate the fact that we could be moving on from him in Miami because, I mean, honestly, that's the nuts as a landing spot. He got 111 targets last year, most of which coming post week 4. And then the real uptick coming when Tua got back in week 8 and just getting the ball out quick. I really, he led in, I mean, I think he was second in first read target share amongst tight ends behind only, or maybe third behind Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. So I love this. I mean, he's at that tight end age apex where it's like, oh, we could get like 4 more good years out of a guy who's 29. Like, that's the only position in football besides quarterback where we're like, oh, 29, that's perfect. That's great. So I mean, him being 29 and being in an offense that's gonna feature the tight end, I think it has more to do with them kind of being in a little bit of cap trouble and him wanting a raise from the, I think, $5 million that he's due this year, which is crazy. Like, I feel like he should be making way more than $5 million. But we've both been pretty adamant about Jonnu being a guy for a while.
Oh, yeah. And, it is kind of crazy that he's at $5 million, but he's made some money. Like that Patriots deal, he right. took that bag and walked away from it with maybe 20 catches in a Patriots uniform. So the cool thing about him is he fits into any offense because he can block so well. Like, he's one of those guys who does not leave the field. And it interests me because you mentioned the Steelers. I heard that one too. And it was so funny because I saw all of the Twitter discourse about this where Steelers are like, wait, we really need some additional receiving help behind DK Metcalf. You know who might be a good fit? George Pickens. So it's great to see that walk back.
Yeah. I think they're hitching their wagon to resetting the market with Roman Wilson and going into Calvin Austin's last year, but none of those guys have the cachet that a George Pickens will command from defenses. So it's interesting that they did that. I understand why they did it, but it's just not. I say you just ride that horse and then, put them on the glue track afterwards, get you a comp pick or whatever the case may be. But, George is in a much better situation now. I'm actually excited about drafting him again. So, but we've spent enough time talking about, the news and the happenings, of May OTAs. Is there anything else before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode that you want to talk about?
No, I want to get straight into it. We got 3 win now players, and the first one's a tight end, so we're staying in the most exciting position in football.
The most exciting position.
Well, since we're talking win now, let's start with some aged players. I got Travis Kelce as my number 1 win now player. And this is probably the first year I've been all the way bought in on Travis Kelce. And it's after last season where he had by far his lowest receiving yards total of a season, 51 yards per game, lowest in his whole career, aside from his rookie year where he did not play. Only 3 touchdowns, also the lowest in his whole career. But given all that bad, I want to tell you why it doesn't matter at all. Because he got 133 Patrick Mahomes targets. That's with increased target competition. That's with their offense sputtering at times. They didn't have Pacheco for a large portion of the season. They're rolling out the husk of Kareem Hunt. And he's going into this offseason with Marquise Brown healthy, with Rashee Rice healthy, with Xavier Worthy coming off an excellent Super Bowl. Only person who had a good Super Bowl from the entire Chiefs. So
correct.
we're going to believe that offense is significantly better. And I think that is justifiable. I think it totally makes sense. But the thing that I don't get is, one, we aren't giving Hunter, Pacheco, or even Brashard Smith any additional love because we don't think that they're going to get a ton more goal line opportunities. You know why that is? Because Travis Kelce is their goal line back. Because they love that little shovel past him. They love those wildcat formations. They love getting him out in space, and he is going to get more than 3 touchdowns. He's still going to get more than 100 targets, and he's going to be an over top 6, top 7 tight end minimum, and he's probably even going to be a little bit higher than that. I'd say he's probably going to be top 3, and you can get him in the 10th round, in the 11th round. If you're in a softer league, you can get him even further than that. I traded for him, Joe Flacco, and a second for Ricky Pearsall. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That value is insane. People are fully giving up on him. And for a 1-year rental that's going to be in the top 5 in the tight end premium league, there is nothing more to like in my mind. Talk me off this one. Or are you on the same page?
Well, okay. So me, big Rashee Rice guy. Massive Rashee Rice guy. That was my bring home the bacon player last year going into the season at the wide receiver position. So I think that the influx of targets that Travis Kelce faced once Rashee Rice was done for the year, like we saw a massive, massive rise in his target counts as Rashee Rice was done for the year. Now, coming back into it, this is, for me, I think that Travis Kelce is going to be a buy, but I think it's going to be unlimited usage. Like we saw him last year, just not really making anything happen after the catch. I mean, you mentioned the 133 targets. That led to 897 yards. Is that correct?
Just about. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's a PPR monster. So in any tight end premium format, that's great. But we're not talking about prime Travis Kelce, prime Zeus. So I think, for a win now, like if you're hurting at the tight end position, you can make that happen, and you should make that happen depending on the entry point price wise. I mean, right now we're talking, just to pull up Dynasty Daddy real quick and run through a couple trades. We're talking Travis Kelce and a 1 tight end premium for a 2026 2. If you're a contender, you can smash that. Travis Kelce 0.75 tight end premium, 2027 round 2. The 404 in a start 10, full PPR 0.75 tight end premium, 2025 404 that is. And I mean, the value here is insane. Like any form of tight end premium, you're going start 10, 12 teams, full PPR, 0.5 tight end premium. You can send off Marvin Mims and get back Travis Kelce. So if you have a hole in your lineup and you're looking to bridge that gap with 10 to 12 points per game, I think Travis Kelce could give you that, especially in a tight end premium format. But yeah, I don't have a problem with it. It's just, I mean, it's cheap enough for me to get in and not cost me anything that I feel like is going to hurt my team or set me back. Do you have anything else to add on Mr. Hall of Famer, Mr. Swifty?
I got one. I've been loving the subtweets back and forth about Rashee Rice. You and I just talking through our teeth back and forth, me bringing up Marquise Brown and Xavier Worthy stats, and you coming right back with a 3-game sample size and telling me that I should believe it.
Well, it's not a 3-game sample size. If you go back to his rookie year from weeks 11 to 17, he was on pace for
9 games.
Yeah. Say it again.
9-game sample size. That's huge.
That's a large sample
almost
size.
Half a season.
Yeah, I would. That's actually more than half a season. Math. Yeah. So I've been bought in on Rashee Rice since I kind of went back to the 2023 season, and I was like, well, what do we have here? Rashee Rice just being the primary target in an offense. And then we come out in 2024, and that's exactly what he does before Mahomes took his gigantic head and ran it into Rashee Rice's knee. So that's where I'm buttering my bread. No Diddy as far as the Chiefs offensive pass catchers go. I think there's still going to be a role for Kelce. I mean, it's just kind of him posting up 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage and helping move the chains or keep them ahead of the chains. And then Xavier Worthy probably takes a massive step forward and becomes, a top 15 asset in best ball. But I think week in, week out, it's going to be Rashee Rice. So
I sure hope so. I mean, I would love to see it. I thought you looked great, but I'm always afraid to buy into those small sample sizes. You got a lot larger of a sample size for your number one win now player here. He's been playing for quite a while. Who you got?
Oh, I've got the future Hall of Famer Davante Adams. So Davante Adams enters into his first situation with pure QB clarity since 2022, since he was playing with his best buddy Derek Carr. Adams is currently going off the board at pick 31 on Underdog and pick 32 in the fast draft ADP. Now, he averaged 17 points a game last year in 2024 with Aaron Rodgers playing complete buddy ball, and he showed no signs of slowing down. All the metrics were still elite. And now he's going to play with the kingmaker at quarterback, a guy who's been a part of 3 historic seasons, one being Calvin Johnson's yardage season, 2 being Cooper Kupp's Triple Crown, and 3 being Puka's record-breaking rookie year. And I don't think anybody can question at this point the fact that Davante Adams is probably at worst case, he's going to approximate what Cooper Kupp was able to do last year. Cooper Kupp was like the wide receiver 5 from weeks 8 through 12 in points per game. So I think that we're going to get some massive spike weeks from Davante Adams. I think the volume will still be there for Davante Adams. I think that them doing everything they can to ingratiate him into the Rams offense and possibly supplanting Kyron Williams as the primary goal line option, that is one thing that Davante Adams just does tremendously well. I mean, you talk about how low a percentage the end zone fade is, but I mean, you have a whole probably 10-minute highlight reel of Davante Adams just catching goal line fades and touchdowns. You go back to the Jets game last year, they were just throwing him the ball left, right, and center to get, just to move the chains and score points. So Davante Adams is still an elite option. I mean, you're talking about adding 17 points a game into your lineup. I'll bring up some trades here real quick, and then you can tell me why I'm crazy, Addi. I mean, you can bring the full force of Captain Underpants, to this discussion. I expect it. I'm prepared for it. So we're talking about Davante Adams going, if you're a contender, hey, we're shipping off the 2025 208 for Davante Adams, right? Like
that's literally the trade I made this week.
Yeah. So yeah, this might actually be you. Like you're shipping off Calvin Ridley in a 2026 4 for Davante Adams. So yeah, you're tearing up from one old guy who's probably going to have some upside to an old guy that definitely has some upside. Davante Adams, 32 years old, 2025 209 for Davante Adams. I mean, this is all price points that I'm buying in. You ship Mason Taylor for Davante Adams in a 2026 4. Yeah, give me that all day long. Like these are the price points that you're having to pay to get in on Davante Adams, and I'm in at that point. Like there's do not pass go, do not collect $200. I love it here.
I want to tell you you're crazy, but I think I'm going to choose to tick off our entire audience instead of ticking off you on this one and say that the under should really be on Puka Nacua. Davante Adams has actively straddled the value of plenty of players. You look at last season, he gets into that Jets offense, and Garrett Wilson goes from a bona fide wide receiver 1, running middle of the field crossers, running those deep in option routes, getting himself open in space. That is the exact part of the field that Puka Nacua attacks. And we got Davante Adams starting in a Rams uniform in training camp. The guy loves breakfast. He's probably there with Matt Stafford already. We got the narrative. It sounds like Sean McVay already wants him in there. I think there's a good chance that Davante Adams finishes above Puka Nacua straight up this year. And I think if that happens, you're going to be real disappointed that you took Puka at the 107. because target competition does make a difference in this offense. And I loved what I saw from Devontae last year a lot more than I loved what I saw from Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I mean, we saw an obvious what seemed to be an obvious decline from Cooper Kupp throughout the season. I mean, like I said, I referenced that point in the season where he came back from injury. I think weeks 8 through 12. He really put some great stuff on tape. And then, it just went off of a cliff, which, I mean, he's never been the most toolsy guy if you're talking about his physical skill set. But yeah, he averaged 20 points a game from weeks 8 through 12 last year. And then from that point forward, I think he was at probably about 5 points a game. And he went catchless. On 2 different occasions, or maybe with 1 catch on 2 different occasions. So it's very nasty work here that we're talking about. But I think all that to say, I think Cooper Kupp is probably, I think Davante Adams is going to approximate that Cooper Kupp role in a way, exceeding expectations, making Matthew Stafford one of my most aggressive buys because he has all these weapons at his disposal. They go and get Terrence Ferguson in the 2nd round. So yeah, I think, in concert with Davante Adams, Matthew Stafford is a massive buy for me in 2025 as well. Why don't we talk about your second guy here, Addi?
Yeah, we're staying in division. I'm taking it easy this podcast, as you can tell. I'm only taking guys who have finished number 1 in their position grouping in the past because it's a win now podcast. We got CMC. And this is one of my favorite players to take in Dynasty, Redraft, Best Ball, whatever format you're in. I think CMC is a screaming value. He has been wide receiver or running back 1 or 2 in 4 of his 8 years. 5 if you count in his RB10 rookie season, and that's with Cam Newton. So every time he's played a full season for the 49ers, he has been a bona fide RB1. And he's only had down years when he's played under 8 games. I know this is easy analysis, but I feel like it's going under the radar because last season he had his lowest points per game of his career at 10. Mm-hmm. And he's going as RB14. I don't think there's any chance he finishes as RB14. I think they are still going to run 12 personnel at a high rate. I think he's still going to get the ball plenty. I think they fully plan on running CMC entirely into the ground. I think there is no chance in heck that he is anything less than RB5 this season if he plays a whole season. And even if he doesn't, I think you know exactly when you play CMC and when you don't play CMC. It's when he's on the field. So he's an easy player to get on your roster. And I think you could trade a late first for him. And in most dynasty leagues, you could get him for that value because people are panicking a bit because they've seen this decline from the 49ers. They went from one of the hardest strength of schedules last year to one of the easiest because of their bad record. They are going to be in more games, and he is going to be the reason that they win those games.
Yeah, I mean, here's to your point. There's a couple trades here in a start 10 super flex 0.5 tight end premium 2025 110 for Christian McCaffrey. Same day this happens in a start 12 2025 110 Christian McCaffrey. Now, if you're adding Christian McCaffrey, I'm assuming that this is someone who's adding Christian McCaffrey to a loaded roster. You're not pretending, you are absolutely contending, making a move like that. So yeah, Christian McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey and Khalil Herbert, send Chuba to get Christian McCaffrey and Khalil Herbert. I'm not 100% sure that I'm on that train just because Chuba's going to give you 16 points a game. Now, you are, the upside of Christian McCaffrey is 22 to 24 points a game whenever he's healthy. So I can't be upset at that. It's just you've shortened your window, whereas I think Chuba can take a step forward, but that's a different episode for a different day. You
aren't in on Rico Dowdle?
I was never in on Rico Dowdle, not even if there was a fire. So, I think that I think that Christian McCaffrey is going to be the pendulum swinger, especially in startups, because of the fact that he's around the fifth round, fourth or fifth round, and this is a guy who's, like I said, he's going to give you 20 to 24 points a game in full PPR if he stays healthy. I mean, that's just, we have multiple occasions of him absolutely slaughtering from a fantasy perspective because of the fact that he's just perfect back, perfect system. Yeah, 2022, 21 points a game. 2023, 24 and a half points a game. I mean, the 2020 season, we were on pace for a obviously he's not going to average 30 points a game, but we've got a 29.3 points per game season in 2019, and 2018, another 24 points a game. So yeah, Christian McCaffrey, cheat code if he is healthy. The only thing that scares me is just the fact that it could get the rug could get ripped out from under you real quick. And even if you have the Isaac Guerrero insurance, that's dropping down from 24 points a game to about 14, depending on how it goes. So if you draft Christian McCaffrey, you also have to draft Isaac Guerrero. Maybe take a 22, 23 round flyer on Jordan James as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you think Jordan James filters into this at all? Because in my mind, what I saw from Isaac Guerrero last year is a guy who can run the Shanahan system exactly how Kyle Shanahan wants it run. Guerrero looked a lot like Tevin Coleman to me, where he doesn't juke ever. It's just not his thing. He constantly runs to the hole, runs that outside zone to perfection. As someone with Christian McCaffrey and Isaac Guerrero, keep hyping up my roster there, Chev. I could not feel safer having Guerrero as backup, because with Jordan Mason gone, I have no disposition to think that Jordan James is going to be a huge factor in this offense, nor do I think that Kyle Shanahan wants him to be a huge factor in this offense.
No, I mean, I totally agree with you. I think that the thing there is we have some sort of continuity, and I mean, Isaac Guerrero is in that mold, size, speed, freak wise, of a Jonathan Taylor, of a Breece Hall. Those guys are guys that 6 foot, 5'11", 6 foot, 215 pounds, sub 4.4. There's only a handful of those guys in the league, and Isaac Guerrero is one of them, even though he is old. So but this episode's about old people. And so I'm going to move to a slightly older running back, a guy who's been who's been a stud for a long time. And he was a stud in 2024. And he's going to be a stud in his offensive system, mostly because of the fact that I don't think that they have really anybody else to, give the ball to. Now, so we're talking about Alvin Kamara here. Alvin Kamara, 19 points a game in 2024, 14 games, was on pace to rush for his first 1,000-yard season of his career, since that's a big knock for some people. I got some shade in the Twitter streets about saying, Breece Hall, telling me Breece Hall wasn't good because of the fact that he'd never rushed for 1,000 yards. It was well, Alvin Kamara's been the RB1 overall before, and he's never rushed for 1,000 yards. So miss me with that. So
I love the imaginary metric threshold you have to pass to be an RB1. If you don't get 1,000, you can't possibly do it, aside from all the times we've seen Jamal Charles, Alvin Kamara, even CMC do it.
Right. Just let's be serious. So Alvin Kamara was, 7th overall at the position in explosive plays. He had 32 explosive plays last year. He was second in weighted opportunities, 276.5 weighted opportunities. I mean, he was number 1 at the position in targets. So we're talking about a guy who's the focal point of the offense, a Christian McCaffrey-esque type of usage pattern. I mean, there's no one to threaten him. I mean, you could talk about them drafting Devin Neal. I think that's a plus EV move for the franchise that, just tends to kind of whiff on those later round picks, or just pick the MVP from the Senior Bowl. But to get back to Alvin Kamara, I think that this is the perfect win now piece. And we're talking about a guy who, like I said, was 1,500 yards from scrimmage in 14 games, essentially. He's the staple of the Saints offense. He's, and he's going to be that as long as he's playing American tackle football. I mean, you can go get him for a couple seconds on, here's some of the trades just to give you guys some ideas. Like I love using Dynasty Daddy. If you're not using that, absolutely make sure that you go and get familiar with this, because it gives you some great framework. Not saying that you can go and do all these trades. I mean, you could try. You can go do all these trades to get, but you can get some ideas about what's going on. So Alvin Kamara for the 208 and the 308. Alvin Kamara for the 2025 204. Alvin Kamara for the 2025 203. Alvin Kamara for a 2026 2 and a 2026 3. Like, these are some of the things that you can get done, and it's not going to hurt your team. And if it doesn't work out, guess what? You can sell Alvin Kamara to a contender in like week 6 or 7, because they're going to be looking to add some firepower to their lineup. How do I know? Because I've done this a couple times. So I'm really bullish on Alvin Kamara as a win now piece. I don't think that he's going to fall off of a cliff. I think the addition of Kellen Moore as the head coach and play caller is going to be something that benefits him greatly. And so I have no issues with Alvin Kamara being a productive member of my squad in 2025.
I just find it really weird. We didn't even bring up Kendre Miller.
We should never bring up Kendre Miller.
We should never.
Like, are we talking about princes who never were, that were promised? Or are we talking about people? Are we talking about people who may or may not have slept with Dennis Allen's mistress?
I mean, he clearly did that. But that being said, I totally agree, and I love that Devin Neal fell far enough that you don't need to think of him as a direct threat to Kamara right now, because I was a little worried that they'd be taking a guy like Devin Neal a little bit earlier, like maybe in the 3rd round. And if they did, then I'd be a little bit worried, because that sounds like a full-on replacement, but it sounds to me like they're actually trying to bring in a guy to see if he can fill that role. And Devin Neal is the perfect arbitrage play to Alvin Kamara. Like, if you want to be safe, take Devin Neal too. You're going to be able to get him at value in your rookie draft. He is falling way further than he should. And this entire offseason, you've been convincing me that Devin Neal is actually a real gamer. So if you really are worried about that, you can make this happen and still end up with Devin Neal on your roster. So I think that this is the kind of move that a contender can really make in the offseason while Kamara is not putting up points. And then during the season, if stuff doesn't work out, if you end up needing to make that trade, you are entirely correct. Hop on Dynasty Daddy, figure out what you can get him off your roster for, and take one of those 2026 guys that you're already bricked up about and get it going.
Yeah, without question, man. Like, that's the thing, is you gotta time the market with these guys. So, while football's not happening, if you're looking to, obviously we don't have a crystal ball to see into the future, so if you're trying to make moves that are going to benefit your team right now, I think that these are guys that are going to benefit your team, assuming health, which is all we can assume right now. Now, could we go out there tomorrow and find out that Alvin Kamara punched somebody else in the face and we're going to get suspended for 3 games 2 years from now? I don't know. But, nobody saw the regression of 2024 coming for Christian McCaffrey, because, he developed quadruple tendonitis in both Achilles. So, but yeah, let's move to your 3rd and final player. We're each going to give you 3 guys today. So Addi, give us your 3rd guy.
Hey, I'm hoping for some discourse here, because we've been far too on the same page. This is probably our first podcast we've agreed the whole time. So I'm ready to hear you tell me why I'm wrong about Anthony Richardson being an excellent win now piece. Now, when you talk about 2020 or a 23-year-old quarterback who got taken in the top 3, is still on his rookie deal, and is still on a roster that theoretically has excellent pieces at receiver, then you probably aren't typically talking about a guy you could trade a 2nd, maybe a 3rd for. Anthony Richardson is that guy. He is going to finish in top 5 to 10 in QB scoring and points per game. The only thing that you need to worry about is the fact that he might take himself off the field at any moment. You might be watching the game. He might run for a 60-yard run and just decide, you know what? I need a break. I'm taking the time off. I haven't run my sprints. I got to get out there. I'm going to let DJ take 1 or 2 throws, and then I'll get myself back in. But, if there was ever a time to buy in on A-Rich, it's right now when all of these Twitter rumors are spreading about, Daniel Jones throws a little bit of a better ball. No kidding, he throws a better ball. We've known that for a while. Anthony Richardson will make or break this year on the fact that he can or can't win games for the Colts. And he's going to get an opportunity to. No matter what anybody's telling me, it's never that Daniel Jones is going to take every snap for the Colts this year.
Right.
He might take some, and he probably will take some. But if A-Rich is winning them games, they will keep him on the field. And if you're a contender, say you have Dak Prescott and Tua as your QBs, you want to build in some upside there, I could not think of a better guy than A-Rich, because if you trade for A-Rich and he starts playing well for the Colts, you just got yourself a first-round value right there. That is what you got. And he is going to be more and more valuable the more snaps he stays on the field. So you can tell me the under case, because there is one. It's glaring. I throw the ball about as well as A-Rich does. Not as hard, but about as well. So tell me why Daniel Jones is going to be this year's MVP.
Well, the problem that I have with Anthony Richardson is the fact that all of the things that allude to him experiencing growth and becoming a better passer of the football is something that we've only ever seen from a guy like Josh Allen. So,
Fair.
I mean, there are a lot of metrics where you compare their first 16 starts or whatever it is, and they're almost identical. But the problem with Anthony Richardson, just to throw a couple things out there as far as his opportunities that he has as a passer. Now we're talking about a guy who's a 99th percentile athlete. There's no question about his athletic ability, and where his fantasy value is probably going to come from is going to be his running. So we're hoping that he takes a step forward. But I mean, we got what, 12 starts in 2024? 11.
Did we get
11.
12? I was going to say, it felt like less.
11. So in those 11 games, 15 interceptable passes, 24 danger plays. He just with his ability to run the ball, we were looking at 0.63 fantasy points per dropback, which is elite. But he still fell short in terms of under pressure completion percentage. 38%, that's 40th amongst starting quarterbacks. Play action completion percentage, 40%, that's 39th. And then his true completion percentage was 40th amongst all quarterbacks. So we're asking a guy who doesn't really. Now, I will be fair and say that the Colts receivers in 2024 did not do him any sort of favors. We got 14 drops recorded according to Player Profiler. And so it's less than ideal. Okay. So we're looking for him to take that step forward and just be if he could just be average as a passer, then we're looking at a Konami code that you're getting in the 8th or 9th round of your drafts. And I mean, his price is depressed right now. And that's the one guy that I think from a fantasy perspective that the community is if you're out, you're just looking for a sell window because you don't want to sell for pennies on the dollar, which is what you would be doing right now. And, I think the Daniel Jones things are overblown just because we're not, in all honesty, we've seen enough Daniel Jones to know that he is not him. And that's just not something that I would be willing to do. I mean, these are some pretty innocuous trades. Brian Robinson straight up for Anthony Richardson in a start 11 to a super flex league. Give me Anthony Richardson all day long. We're talking about both the 2025 202 or Anthony Richardson, I'm still on the Anthony Richardson side. Like, I just can't. Khalil Shakir in a start 10 straight up for Anthony Richardson. Like, these are real trades that are happening too. They're on Dynasty Daddy. So I'm not making these up. This is not pie in the sky stuff. I don't mind it at all to go acquire Anthony Richardson for pennies on the dollar, but I would not be selling him for pennies on the dollar. So unfortunately I have to give some caveats, but I do agree that he could help you win now. And the caveat is if he's able to stay on the field.
Yeah. And you brought up Dynasty Daddy. I'm going to bring up League Champ. Anthony Richardson, in the range he's going between JJ McCarthy and round Geno Smith, essentially, you're looking at the highest variance quarterback in our database. We have him going anywhere within 5 picks of that range. His standard deviation is 5, and we got his best projected rank at 6 and his worst at 30. That is some crazy data because it shows that the person in your league with a Rich might hate him. He might be trying to get that guy off his roster as quickly as possible.
People are, man. Yeah. That's
or
an
they
excellent
love him.
point. That's an excellent point. Also, if you haven't, go download the app in the App Store and the Play Store. Please, League Champ, App Store, Play Store, download it. We're going to have some videos coming out on how to set the rankings up and probably reforming a little bit of that. # shameless plug. But let's move on to my last. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add on Anthony?
No, that's it. No, please go into Cleveland Browns player here. I'm so hyped to talk about the Cleveland football team. Yeah.
So the Cleveland Football Browns, an American tackle football team of much chagrin.
They're still in the NFL?
Only because we haven't had the bid accepted to have the Michigan Leathernecks or whatever they're called relegate the Browns. But yeah, my guy is a Cleveland Brown. He's a 29-year-old tight end right there, just got his full-grown man strength going on. Talking about David Njoku, Chief David Njoku. So he's in a contract year. He's 29 years old. He was one of the most heavily targeted tight ends in the league last year, 8.5 targets per game in 11 games. He collected 94 targets, had 64 receptions on those 97 targets, and he had 14.6 expected fantasy points per game in 2024. Now, the issue was that those expected fantasy points were kiboshed by the fact that, one, he didn't get any sort of down the field targets. Those 64 receptions only went for 505 yards, and his yards per route run were abysmal because they were scheming targets up to get him running in space because he is an elite athlete. But Deshaun Watson, the ghost of Deshaun Watson, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and the whole cohort of who they had of backup quarterbacks playing, Jameis Winston for a stretch before the pick sixes immediately doomed and demonized his performance. I think that this year with 40-year-old Joe Flacco probably gives him his most stable quarterback play that he's had for a long time. If we look back to 2023 during the championship weeks 15 to 17, Njoku, I was trying to say Jonnu and Njoku at the same time, and it got jumbled up in there. Njoku was the tight end 1 in points per game, and through weeks 8 through 18, in that same stretch of 2023, he was the tight end 2 in points per game with over 15.8 points a game. So David Njoku's a guy that you can go out and acquire. It's not a sexy name. He's in the mid rounds. He's in the mid rounds of a startup. Sometimes you can get him around 10, around 11. And I think that if he stays healthy, he's going to be an asset that scores way more, that adds a little bit more to your lineup than you're comfortable with. I mean, we're talking, you can just send a full 0.75 tight end premium, send a 2027 2, get David Njoku 2025 206. And a 0.5 tight end premium. Actually, I think I would probably be on the the 206 side because man Kyle Williams or Jaden Higgins, or if you're a Jack Best guy, Best don't kill my vibe, but I would be firmly on the 206 side there. The 2025 310, that's a slam dunk for me in a 0.5 tight end premium start 10. And then, David Njoku straight up for Britton Strange. So those are just some of the trades out there right now that you could get done to get David Njoku. Keep saying Jonnu. They're very similar players to me. So to get David Njoku onto your roster, I think that this is a slam dunk. And those are prices that I named that you can go out there and make an offer and get a guy who's going to put up 12 to 15, potentially 17, 18 points a game if the quarterback play is solidified. So tell me why I'm crazy, brother.
So this one won't surprise you that much because I'm a huge Fanning guy. I have been since before the draft. I was thinking he was a second-round talent. But Njoku misses games. That is one thing we know about David Njoku. He plays with his entire body on the line. Tight end version of Mike Williams, goes up for the ball every single time, tries to make plays with it. He ends up getting hurt. And even last year, he only had 11 games, which doesn't shock me. But if Fannin comes out and starts playing like the guy I think he definitely is, I think they're going to be inclined to give him a couple more reps later in the season. Now, that being said, I had Njoku on quite a few rosters last year. I'm going to have him on quite a few this year. He's still going at around tight end 9, tight end 10, which feels pretty low for a guy that still has established target ceiling in that offense. So I'm inclined to say that Njoku is a really great piece to bring onto a win now roster. But the one thing that I would caveat that with is, since we're still talking Dynasty here, how much longer does David Njoku have a high target ceiling? I'd say 1 year, maybe 2, and then he's going to get moved because they do like Fannin. They took him out with the first pick in the 3rd round. So I'm inclined to think that Njoku is a lot more of a rental than most people do. Do you think that Njoku actually has upside past this season?
So I don't think that his future in Cleveland is solidified by any stretch of the imagination, but he's in that grown man strength era of his career where he's 29 years old. He's going to be on a 3rd contract, and he could be looking to cash out, 2026 and beyond. So we just saw George Kittle get paid at 31 years old. If David Njoku goes out, does pretty well this year, lands him another contract that lets him play until he's 34, 35 years old, I would be on board with that. I don't think he's long for Cleveland, but if we're talking win now, I'm all in. Win now. Give me a 3rd rounder. I'm going to get a 3rd rounder. I'm going to send it for David Njoku, and I'm going to profit this year and hope that he goes to – I can figure out a way to get that 3rd back. Not only can I figure out a way to get the 3rd back, I can then – I can hope that he goes to a more, positive situation like we just talked about with the potentially the Texans or the Jaguars, or we don't know what's going to open up. Yeah, or if they were to swap, Jonnu and Njoku, which I've been tumbling my words through for the last 10 minutes trying to talk about each one. That would be, he would be one of the guys that could move and be, in that role where he doesn't really have to come off the field. So, yeah, I'm not out. I think that anytime that you're talking about taking someone off the Cleveland Browns and putting them in a different spot, that puts you in a good position. So that's why I'm kind of same thing with Breece Hall, but that's a different story for a different day. You're taking somebody off of one of these vagabond franchises and putting them somewhere else is almost always going to be positive. So that's where we're at.
Man, vagabond, that is not a word you hear very often. That's how we know Chev's an old head here. He knows all those thesaurus words.
Bro, I
can't even pronounce.
I just watched Aladdin the other day, bro. Don't worry about it.
Ooh, big Aladdin fan, man.
Don't worry about it. Yeah. shout out to the magic carpet, and shout out to Jafar. He was misunderstood.
Yeah. Jafar gets no love. Jafar was trying to make his move. He tried his best. It didn't work out. Cleveland Browns tried to do the same thing with Deshaun Watson. They got a similar vibe.
Hey, fantasy football Jafar is Deshaun Watson. That's how we close this episode out. So, hey, this has been another episode of Two Guys, One Part. I am one pard. This has been another episode of Two Guys, One Pod. I am your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster. That is Addison the Narddog Narter. Addi, tell us where we can find you on Twitter and everything that we're working on.
Yeah. Find us at Duck League Champ on Twitter and Instagram, and go ahead and find us at League.champ on the TikTok. Also, obviously, download the League Champ app. We have the most complete and the most open source database of fantasy football rankings. We're putting all our data out there for all our users. We are trying to really get into this everyone deserves the data that they need to succeed this season mentality. So please give us a like, rate us 5 stars if you can. And if you have to rate us lower than that, then just put in rankings. That's fine too. As always, we say George Pickens forever, Drake London never, or is that ain't a thing here anymore, right?
It's George Pickens forever, Drake London also as well too. If you are forced to take a wide receiver in the first 24 picks of a startup, we're workshopping that. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a great night.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No